Section 1. The Second Happy Time. January 15, 1942. Off Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. The Atlantic is unnervingly calm. Captain Lieutenant Reinhard Hardigan stands on the bridge of U-123. Binoculars raised, breath fogging in the cold night air. Ahead of him, the American coastline glows like a careless invitation. Town lights shimmer openly. Lighthouses sweep their beams across the sea. Gasoline refineries burn bright against the dark, their flames reflected on the water like signal fires. It is everything a U-boat commander could hope for. Below the surface, diesel engines thrum softly. The boat glides at periscope depth, unchallenged, unafraid. There are no patrol aircraft overhead, no escorts cutting the waves, no blackout along the coast. The richest shipping lanes in the world lie exposed and undefended. Hardigan lowers his binoculars and turns to his watch officer. "Targets will come to us," he says quietly. They already are. Within hours, the shadow of a merchant ship slides across the moonlit water, silhouetted perfectly against the glowing shore. The freighter steams alone, running full lights, unaware it has already been marked for death. A torpedo leaves the tube with a muted hiss. Seconds later, an explosion tears through steel and cargo. Fire erupts. The ship begins to list, her radio calls unanswered, her crew scrambling into lifeboats as flames race across the deck. U-123 slips away into the darkness. This is Operation Paukenschlag, drumbeat. And for German submariners, it feels like the war has suddenly tilted back in their favor. In the months after Pearl Harbor, Adolf Hitler has finally released his U-boats against the American coast. Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the U-boat arm, has argued for this moment since the war began. Now, with the United States unprepared and overstretched, his captains are being handed what feels like a gift. They will later call it the Second Happy Time. The first had come in 1940, when Britain stood alone and U-boats slaughtered unescorted shipping in the Atlantic. This time, the hunting grounds are even richer, and the prey even more careless. From Florida to Newfoundland, German submarines prowl freely. Tankers, freighters, troop transports, they all fall, one by one. Some are sunk within sight of American beaches. Others burn for hours, visible from hotel balconies and boardwalks, while crowds gather to watch. American coastal defenses are a patchwork of confusion. The U.S. Navy lacks enough escorts. The Army Air Forces lack long-range patrol aircraft. Inter-service rivalry paralyzes coordination. Requests for British-style convoys are delayed, debated, ignored. Merchant captains resist sailing in groups, convinced speed and independence offer better protection. For the men inside the U-boats, it feels unreal. Captain Lieutenant Ernst Kahls, commanding U-130, writes later that the American coast seemed lit for a festival. Another commander compares it to firing into a shooting gallery. Torpedoes that had once been hoarded carefully are now expended freely. Sinkings climb at a staggering pace. In the first 6 months of 1942, over 600 Allied ships are destroyed, the vast majority by U-boats. Millions of tons of cargo vanish beneath the Atlantic. Oil spills coat the water. Wreckage washes ashore. Lifeboats drift for days before rescue, if rescue comes at all. German propaganda seizes on the moment. Newspapers celebrate triumphant captains. Radio broadcasts praise the U-boat arm as the weapon strangling Anglo-American power. Donitz himself believes the campaign may finally bring Britain to its knees, and perhaps even force the Americans to negotiate. But beneath the celebration, cracks already exist. U-boats are operating far from home, at the edge of their endurance. Crews are exhausted. Mechanical failures are common. Replacement boats and trained submariners cannot be produced as quickly as losses elsewhere, and quietly, the enemy is watching. In London, British naval officers grimly recognize the pattern. They have seen this before. They know exactly what must be done. Convoys, air cover, relentless escort tactics. And they know something else as well. The technology that will end this slaughter already exists. It is just not yet in American hands. Back aboard U-123. Hardigan orders another attack before dawn. Another tanker explodes. Another victory mark is chalked inside the control room. The crew allows themselves rare smiles. For now, the Atlantic belongs to them. They do not yet realize that this moment, this apparent triumph, represents the high water mark of German submarine warfare. The hunters are being hunted. They just don't know it yet. Section 2. The blind spots close. April 2nd, 1942, Berlin. Admiral Karl Dönitz studies the situation map in silence. Red pins dot the Atlantic from the Caribbean to the Grand Banks, each one marking a confirmed sinking. The numbers are staggering, more than even his most optimistic projections. Tankers destroyed faster than they can be replaced. Cargo ships vanishing before they ever reach Britain. American coastal waters, once assumed dangerous, now appear safer for U-boats than the Bay of Biscay. For Dönitz, this is vindication. For years, he has argued that submarines, not battleships, would decide the war at sea. That starving Britain and choking American industry would force a political collapse. Operation Paukenschlag seems to prove him right. But even as the tonnage charts rise, other reports begin to trouble him. U-boat captains complain that opportunities are becoming strangely uneven. Some patrols return with spectacular success. Others find empty seas. Ships that once sailed alone now travel in loose groups. Radio traffic has increased, disciplined, brief, harder to exploit. Nothing alarming. Not yet. Out in the Atlantic, the change is subtle, but relentless. May 1942. Western approaches. Captain Lieutenant Otto von Bülow peers through his periscope from U-404. Tracking a convoy wallowing through heavy seas, it is small, only 6 ships, and lightly escorted. 1 corvette, maybe 2. Easy prey, he thinks. He fires. The first torpedo hits cleanly. The second misses. The convoy scatters, smoke pouring into the sky. Von Bülow prepares for the inevitable counterattack and waits. It does not come. Instead, something else happens. Minutes later, the escorts suddenly turn toward him with unnerving precision. Depth charges follow, closer than expected. Explosions rattle the hull, lights flicker, tools crash from racks. The escorts should not know where he is, but they do. For the first time in the war, von Bülow feels hunted. Not aggressively, but intelligently. The reason is invisible. High above the ocean, Allied aircraft are beginning to carry a new kind of eye. Airborne radar. Crude at first, operating on long wavelengths, it struggles to detect submerged submarines. But surfaced U-boats at night, once nearly invisible, now glow faintly on operators' scopes. Even more dangerous is what comes next. In British laboratories, scientists' perfect centimetric radar, compact enough to fit inside aircraft noses, powerful enough to detect a submarine's conning tower through rain, darkness, and sea clutter. Unlike earlier systems, it cannot be easily detected by German warning receivers. U-boats begin to die without ever knowing they were seen. At the same time, another threat emerges from the air. One the submariners can see, but cannot escape. Long-range patrol aircraft. The consolidated B-24 Liberator, modified for maritime patrol, begins closing the dreaded air gap, the vast stretch of ocean beyond the reach of Allied aircraft. Where U-boats once surfaced freely to recharge batteries and send reports, they now find shadows circling overhead. Surfacing becomes dangerous. Remaining submerged becomes exhausting. Diesel fumes cling to steel walls. Air grows stale. Men sleep sitting up. Batteries drain faster than expected. Patrols stretch from weeks into months. Still, German commanders believe they can adapt. Then comes the blow that changes everything. Late 1942, North Atlantic. Convoys begin to behave differently. They no longer scatter when attacked. Escorts do not break off after a single pass. Instead, they hold contact, hour after hour, sometimes day after day, driving U-boats deeper, battering them with depth charges, denying them the chance to escape. The key is something the Germans call, dismissively at first, HFDF, HFDF, high-frequency direction finding. Every U-boat must report contact. Every report sends a radio signal into the ether. Allied shore stations and escort ships triangulate those signals in seconds, plotting the submarine's position even before it attacks. The ocean, once vast and anonymous, begins to shrink. U-boat commanders notice the pattern too late, attack a convoy, and escorts arrive with uncanny speed. Send a radio message, and suddenly aircraft appear. Dive too late, and the charges fall exactly where you are. Losses climb, quietly at first, then sharply. In January 1943, the U-boat arm loses 19 boats. In February, 12 more. By March, the numbers become impossible to ignore. Dönitz demands more boats at sea, believing numbers will compensate for losses. But the Atlantic is no longer the empty hunting ground it once was. It has become a layered battlefield. Radar above, sonar below, escorts and aircraft working as a single organism. The captains still fight with skill and courage. They still sink ships. But now, for every success, there is a cost. And the cost is rising faster than Germany can afford. Somewhere beneath the Atlantic, a U-boat dives as depth charges explode around her. Gauges spin. Hull plates groan. A young sailor grips a valve wheel with bleeding hands, praying the steel will hold. The second happy time is ending. The U-boat war is about to enter its most lethal phase. Not for the Allies, but for the men who once ruled the sea unseen. Section 3. The Atlantic turns red. March 1943. North Atlantic, south of Greenland. The sea is slate gray, broken by white caps and sleet. A convoy, HX 229, labors eastward, engines straining, holds packed with fuel, food, and steel. Above the waves, visibility is miserable. Below them, it is deadly. Kapitän Lieutenant Peter Erich Kramer of U-333 has been tracking the convoy for hours, shadowing just beyond visual range. His orders are clear: hold contact, report position, wait for the pack. This is still how the U-boat war is supposed to work. Kramer sends the signal. Within minutes, escorts turn toward him. Not one, not two, several. Sonar pings echo through the hull like a hammer on a coffin lid. Kramer orders a crash dive. The boat plunges. Depth charges follow, closer than before, walking across the seabed with methodical precision. The escorts do not give up. They do not have to. Above the convoy sails something new. Something German intelligence has dismissed as an experiment. An escort carrier. Small, slow, and unglamorous. She carries only a handful of aircraft. But they are enough. Swordfish and Avengers circle endlessly, radars sweeping the sea, sonobuoys splashing into the water. There is no safe depth. There is no safe hour. The hunter-killer groups have arrived. Unlike convoy escorts, these formations are not tied to protecting ships. Their sole mission is to find submarines and destroy them. If sonar contact is lost, they search outward in expanding circles. If contact is regained, they tighten the noose. U-boats are driven down, forced to maneuver, forced to expend battery power. When they surface, radar sees them. When they dive, sonar hears them. By the end of March 1943, the results are catastrophic. 41 U-boats destroyed in a single month. Some are caught on the surface, illuminated by aircraft flares before being raked by gunfire. Others are battered for hours beneath the sea until hulls rupture, ballast tanks fail, and the Atlantic rushes in. Survivors are rare. In Berlin, Dönitz reads the reports with mounting disbelief. His crews are still brave, his commanders still aggressive. But courage no longer compensates for invisibility lost. The Allies are not reacting anymore. They are anticipating. New technologies compound the crisis. Depth charges are replaced by hedgehog and squid. Forward-firing weapons that explode only on contact, eliminating the telltale blasts that once warned submariners they had been missed. Sonar tracking becomes continuous, unbroken. U-boats begin to vanish without trace. The men notice. In messes and bunks, whispered conversations turn darker. Veterans who once joked about patrols now speak of them as sentences. Younger sailors watch the older ones with wide eyes, absorbing the fear they try to hide. In April 1943, Donitz faces a decision he never imagined making. He orders a withdrawal. For the first time since the war began, the U-boats are pulled back from the North Atlantic. The hunting grounds that once promised glory now offer only annihilation. It is an admission, if not of defeat, then of transformation. The ocean has changed, but even as the Atlantic grows deadly, German engineers race for answers. New boats are promised. Type Westjüngste submarines. Faster underwater, designed to stay submerged for days, even weeks. New radar detectors, new snorkels, new tactics. All of it is coming. None of it is ready. Meanwhile, the Allies refine their machine. Convoys grow larger, more disciplined. Air cover extends from shore to shore. Information flows seamlessly between ships, aircraft, and command centers. What one escort sees, all can act upon. The Battle of the Atlantic is no longer fought by individual captains. It is fought by systems. In May 1943, the numbers tell the story no propaganda can erase. 34 U-boats lost. Shipping losses, once catastrophic, drop sharply. For the first time, Allied production outpaces sinkings by a wide margin. The tonnage curve bends, decisively. On a patrol boat off Iceland, a British officer watches survivors pulled from the sea. Gaunt, oil-soaked, barely alive. He feels no triumph, only relief. The killing is becoming one-sided. Donitz cancels Wolfpack operations. Boats are instructed to avoid contact. Survival, not success, becomes the priority. The second happy time is over. The Atlantic has turned, not with a single battle, but with relentless pressure, day after day, signal after signal, echo after echo. For the men who once slipped unseen beneath the waves, the sea has become a cage, and in that cage, the walls are closing. Section 4. The Silent Collapse. June 1943. Lorient occupied France. Concrete looms over the harbor like a cliff face. The U-boat pens, thick, brutal slabs of reinforced steel, are scarred with blast marks and soot, but they still stand. Inside, damp air clings to everything. Diesel fumes mix with the smell of rust, oil, and exhaustion. Kapitän-Leutnant Heinrich Lehmann steps off his boat and pauses. His crew follows slowly. No one speaks. Out of 48 men who sailed with him 6 weeks ago, 48 have returned. That alone feels like luck. Around them, other crews disembark, fewer each week. Some boats come back with fresh scars and missing deck guns. Others limp in, escorted by tugs. Many never return at all. The chalkboard inside flotilla headquarters is updated daily. Names, boat numbers, patrol dates, and red lines through those that will not come back. Lehmann studies it longer than he should. He recognizes too many. In briefing rooms, optimism has vanished. The maps still show convoy routes, but the tone has changed. Where once officers spoke of opportunity, now they speak of probability. The probability of detection, the probability of survival. Radar, HF, DF, aircraft everywhere. The ocean no longer hides them. At sea, U-boat patrols feel different now. Surfacing at night is no longer safe. The blackness that once protected them now betrays them. Radar sees silhouettes long before lookouts can spot escorts. Aircraft arrive without warning. A lookout's shout, Flugzeug, is followed by chaos. Dive alarms blare. Men scramble. The boat pitches hard as it plunges, depth gauge spinning. Seconds later, explosions tear through the water above. Sometimes there is no time to dive. Sometimes there is no second chance. In July, UA-607 is caught on the surface by a lead light-equipped Wellington bomber. The bright white beam snaps on, freezing the submarine in sudden daylight. The aircraft attacks immediately. The boat is hit. Survivors later describe the light as the last thing they saw before the sea swallowed them. Stories like this spread quickly. Morale fractures. Young sailors still volunteer, but the veterans know better. They understand the math now. Each patrol is not a hunt. It is a gamble against a system designed to grind them down. In Berlin, Dönitz pushes forward with reforms. He demands faster production, new countermeasures, better detectors. But the Allies adapt faster. When radar detectors appear, radar frequencies change. When snorkels are introduced, aircraft patrol lower. When boats stay submerged longer, sonar tracking improves. Every German solution generates an Allied response. The gap widens. By late 1943, U-boat commanders receive new instructions. Avoid heavily escorted convoys. Attack only when conditions are ideal. Preserve the boats. It is a quiet admission that the offensive is over. The Battle of the Atlantic has entered a new phase, one where Germany reacts and the Allies dictate. At sea, Allied sailors feel the shift too. Convoy duty is still tense, still dangerous, but no longer desperate. Sinkings happen, but they are no longer daily catastrophes. Escorts gain confidence. Crews train relentlessly. Procedures are drilled until instinctive. The system works. On an American destroyer escort, a sonar operator tracks a contact for hours. When the submarine finally surfaces, it is low on batteries. Crew exhausted. The escort opens fire. The U-boat sinks. No drama. No chase. Just execution. Back in the pens, Lehman receives orders for another patrol. He folds the paper carefully, hands steady. He does not celebrate. He does not complain. That night, he writes a letter he may never send. He chooses his words carefully. He avoids fear, avoids doubt. He knows his family will not be told how the war has changed, but he knows. By early 1944, the Atlantic is no longer contested in the same way. Allied shipping surges forward, feeding armies in Britain, North Africa, and Italy. Preparations for something larger, something immense, are underway. The U-boats cannot stop it. They can barely survive it. And yet, they still go out, because that is what they are ordered to do. And because somewhere deep beneath the waves, a few captains still hope, irrationally, that the sea might remember how to hide them. It no longer does. Section 5. The Atlantic decides. February 1944. North Atlantic, west of Ireland. The sea is gray, restless, and unforgiving. Low clouds hang heavy, dragging shadows across the convoy below. From the bridge of HMS Bentinck, a British frigate, Lieutenant Commander Alan Fraser grips his binoculars, eyes scanning the surface more from habit than hope. The convoy stretches to the horizon. Dozens of merchant ships, oilers, troop transports, moving with calm, disciplined certainty. This would have been impossible 2 years ago. Below decks, sonar pulses rhythmically, a steady, reassuring beat. Operators sit with headphones pressed tight, listening not for chaos, but for anomalies. Anything out of place. They hear it, a faint return. Too slow for a whale, too steady for wreckage. Contact, bearing 085. Fraser does not hesitate. Signal the group, execute standard pattern. There is no excitement in his voice, no triumph, just procedure. Depth charges roll off the stern. Explosions thump through the water, spaced with mathematical precision. The convoy does not scatter. It does not panic. It keeps moving. Somewhere below, a German U-boat dives deeper, batteries draining, air growing foul. The captain knows what is happening. He has heard the stories. He has read the reports. Once detected, escape is no longer a matter of skill. It is a matter of endurance. And endurance favors the surface fleet now. The escorts rotate. One attacks, another maintains contact. Aircraft circle overhead, visible even through cloud breaks. A constant threat the submarine cannot outwait. Hours pass, then silence. Debris surfaces. Oil spreads thin across the waves. The convoy never slows. By early 1944, this scene repeats itself again and again. In the North Atlantic, in the Bay of Biscay, off the coast of West Africa. U-boats still score victories. But they are isolated, fleeting, and costly. For every ship sunk, another dozen pass through unharmed. For every U-boat that returns, 2 are lost. The numbers are no longer ambiguous. In January alone, Germany loses 20 U-boats. In February, 19. In March, 16 more. Crews vanish with such regularity that flotilla commanders stop learning names. They learn numbers instead. Berlin can no longer ignore reality. In conference rooms, heavy with cigarette smoke, naval officers argue over charts that tell a brutal story. Shipping losses are down. Allied tonnage delivered is up. Escorts are multiplying faster than submarines can be built. Dönitz listens in silence. He has staked his reputation and Germany's naval strategy on the U-boat. Now the weapon that once promised victory has become a liability, but there is no alternative. Surface ships are bottled up. Air power is stretched thin. The U-boat arm is all that remains capable of striking beyond Germany's shrinking borders, and so they continue. In May 1944, the order is issued. U-boats are to operate farther from Allied air cover. New patrol zones, new restrictions. It is an admission disguised as a redeployment. The captains understand. They are being pushed out of relevance. As spring turns to summer, something else becomes clear to Allied planners. The Atlantic is no longer just secure. It is predictable. Convoys arrive on schedule. Fuel stocks rise. Vehicles, ammunition, and men pile up in Britain at a rate unseen in history. Entire armies are being assembled behind the shield the escorts have built. The sea lanes are open. On June 5th, 1944, the night before the invasion of Normandy, Allied naval commanders review their final reports. U-boat activity exists, but it is scattered, disorganized, ineffective. The German submarine fleet, once the terror of the Atlantic, is not positioned to stop what is coming. Not even close. When the invasion begins, hundreds of ships cross the channel unmolested. A handful of U-boats attempt attacks. Most are detected and driven off. Some are destroyed outright. The Atlantic, once a battlefield, becomes a highway. In the pens at Lorient, Brest, and Saint-Nazaire, U-boats sit idle beneath concrete roofs. Crews wait. Fuel is scarce. Spare parts scarcer. Allied bombers pound the surrounding towns, sealing the bases off from the rest of the war. Some captains scuttle their boats rather than let them be destroyed. Others wait for orders that never come. By late 1944, the truth is unavoidable. The Battle of the Atlantic is over, not with a ceremony, not with a surrender, but with a slow, grinding certainty that one side can no longer influence events. German U-boat captains had once spoken of hunting grounds. Now they speak of survival odds. The Allies, meanwhile, barely speak of U-boats at all. They speak of schedules. Because the war has moved on. Across beaches, through hedgerows, over rivers. Carried there by ships that crossed an ocean no one can stop anymore. The Atlantic has chosen its winner. And it did so not with a single dramatic battle, but by removing the ability to fight at all. Section 6. The silence beneath the waves. January 1945. Kiel Harbor, Germany. Ice clings to the edges of the docks. Snow muffles footsteps along the quay. Inside a concrete bunker scarred by bomb blasts, Korvettenkapitan Hans Becker stands beside a Type 7 U-boat that will never put to sea. Her hull is intact, her paint is fresh, her crew list is complete. She is useless. Fuel allocations have been cut again. There is barely enough diesel for training runs inside the Baltic, let alone a patrol into the Atlantic. Spare parts sit half-finished in factories that no longer have power. Batteries arrive late, if they arrive at all. Becker runs a gloved hand along the pressure hull. 2 years ago, this boat would have been a weapon feared across oceans. Her captain celebrated kills with chalk marks on the conning tower. Her radio crackled with reports of burning freighters and panicked escorts. Now the radio is silent. The men wait in bunks that feel more like graves than quarters. They all know why. Radar sees them before they surface. HFDF hears them when they speak. Sonar tracks them when they dive. Aircraft wait above them when they hide. There is nowhere left to go. The Kriegsmarine tries one last gamble. New boats, Type WWII and WWII, are rushed into production. They are revolutionary on paper, faster underwater, quieter, designed to stay submerged almost indefinitely. Too late. Crews receive them with barely a few weeks of training. Allied bombers smash the shipyards before the boats can deploy in numbers. Many are scuttled at the docks to prevent capture. Technology, once Germany's edge, arrives after the war it was meant to win has already passed its decision point. In February and March 1945, U-boats still slip out occasionally. A few score successes. Most do not return. The captains who survive write no victory reports. They write letters home. Across the Atlantic, the contrast could not be starker. American and British convoys move as if on rails. Liberty ships are replaced by victory ships. Escort carriers patrol relentlessly. Destroyer crews rotate, rest, and return. Sonar operators train replacements faster than submariners can be trained to evade them. The system feeds itself. By the time Allied forces cross the Rhine, the Atlantic is no longer even discussed in operational briefings. It is assumed, taken for granted, as secure as a road behind the lines. For the men who once fought there, this is the final insult. The ocean that once promised Germany victory now delivers nothing but isolation. In April 1945, orders arrive at U-boat bases along the Norwegian coast. Cease operations. Prepare to surrender. Some crews cry. Others feel only relief. They surface their boats one last time, flying black flags. British destroyers approach cautiously, sonar still active, guns trained, habits learned through bitter experience. When the hatches open, pale, thin men emerge. They look older than their years. Many are barely in their 20s. The war beneath the waves ends not with a final torpedo, but with hands raised in silence. After the surrender, Allied officers walk through captured pens. They study scuttled boats, examine logbooks, count losses. The numbers tell a story no propaganda ever could. Over 30,000 German submariners are dead. Nearly 3/4 of all U-boats built are destroyed. An entire arm of service has been consumed. Years later, Admiral Dönitz will reflect on the war he lost. He will speak of missed chances, of early successes, of bravery beyond question. But he will also admit the truth. The Atlantic was decided the moment detection outpaced evasion, the moment industry outpaced ingenuity, the moment the hunters became the hunted. Permanently, German U-boat captains once believed they could strangle an empire. Instead, they discovered something far more dangerous. An enemy that learned faster than they could adapt. An enemy that replaced losses as a matter of routine. An enemy that turned the ocean itself into a controlled space. The second happy time had been real, but it was brief. Radar ended it. Coordination ended it. Production ended it. And when it ended forever. The Atlantic did not forgive mistakes. It remembered them.